Welcome to One Sharp Sword, cutting through to what matters most. I'm your host, Dr. P, Dr. Wayne Pernell, the exponential success coach and the president of Dynamic Leader Incorporated. Today is a very, very special day. I have with me an impressive guest. He's been on shows all over the world, really. He's spoken on stages all over the world. He's a #1 best-selling author. His focus is something that we all need, and it's in some ways parallel to my focus, which is one of the reasons I wanted to have him on, because getting insights from other people that are doing it and out there and making their mark, it just makes all the difference. I wanted to bring this to you as my audience so that you can level up just that bit more without saying anything else. Executive coach, speaker, best-selling author, Dr. Noah St. John, welcome to One Sharp Sword.
Well, thank you, Wayne. Dr. P, it's great to be here with you.
Yeah, good to have you. I'm so I get offers from various people, and sometimes it's like, not quite. When I saw your stuff come through, I really wanted to have you. I think our paths have been similar in many ways. You're reaching audiences that are similar and different. And I just wanted to talk to you a little bit. You didn't wake up one day and go, I'm going to be that guy that makes the difference and leverages people so that they can level up. I'm going to be that guy that discovers this framework around affirmations, and we'll talk about that. Talk about where you started. You have a very interesting, what I call woe to wow story. You grew up in an affluent area, but poor. Can you
Yes.
talk a little bit about that?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I grew up poor in a rich neighborhood. I know that's a total cliche, but it's totally true. I grew up in a little town called Kennebunkport, Maine, which
I
is one of the
know it,
wealthiest
by the
communities in
way.
New England.
Yeah.
But my family was dirt poor. I mean that literally, because we lived at the bottom of a dirt road in a drafty, unfinished house that my parents ended up losing to foreclosure when I was just 15 years old. So from a very young age, I was painfully exposed to the gap, the chasm between the haves and the have-nots. The haves was everyone else in the community, and the have-nots was my family. And so I hated being poor. I hated it because, the speakers, you hear motivational speakers, they'll get on stage and say things like, well, we were poor, but we were happy. We didn't know we were poor. Well, in my family, we freaking knew we were poor because my mother, bless her heart, reminded us every day that we were poor and miserable. So no one wasn't happy. It sucked. And so, I hated being poor because I saw that right down the street, there's great wealth and abundance. So I saw, what the heck, how do I get from here to there? And so, of course, there was no internet back then. There was no coaching or any of the things we have today. So I did the only thing I could think of to do, which is I went to the library and I read every book in the self-help section. I just went to the, self-help success section. I read every book, all the classics, Dale Carnegie, Napoleon Hill, Stephen Covey. I just immersed myself in the traditional success literature. And, I really, really worked hard. I tried to make it work, but, as hard as I tried, as hard as I worked, I just couldn't get it to work. And so I tried lots of different things. I was traveling the country, and just, I couldn't get it to work. So at the age of 25, I was so depressed and frustrated because I've been working so hard, really had nothing to show for it, that one day in 1992, I decided to commit suicide. I just decided to take my own life. And at the very last moment, my life was spared. Now, I didn't know why at the time, but I realized I've got to find out what is my purpose here on the earth. What am I doing here? Why am I here? These questions that humans have been asking for centuries, right? And so I still didn't have anyone to talk to, or anybody who could help me. So I went back to the library and I read every book in the spiritual section. I just went to the spiritual section, read every book in the spiritual section of the library. All the classics of and the spiritual thinkers of our time. So then fast forward 5 years to 1997, and that's when I had these epiphanies, and I realized exactly what was missing in all those books that I'd spent all those years reading, and no one was talking about it. And so I realized, wow, this is my purpose, and this is what I'm here for. And so I said, well, I got to write my book. So I wrote my first book. It was called Permission to Succeed, and it was subsequently published by the Chicken Soup for the Soul publishing company. The Chicken Soup for the Soul publisher. And so now I've written 24 books in 18 languages, and I'm actually now the only author in history that has works published by Hay House, HarperCollins, Simon and Schuster, Mind Valley, Nightingale Conant, and the Chicken Soup for the Soul publisher. No one else in history has ever done that. And so, we've helped. And then, of course, I started coaching. I became an executive coach and a business coach and just a mental health coach, really. And now we've helped our clients add over $3 billion in added revenues, found revenues, money that was just sitting there that the people, they couldn't see it, they couldn't get it. They were getting in their own way. And so we've helped our clients add multiple six figures, seven figures, eight figures, using my coaching. And that's what I've been doing now for over 26 years now. So really, that's how it happened. Very humble beginnings. And it really came from a place of frustration of, why isn't this working and what's missing? And, I was able to fill in those missing pieces.
So many pivotal moments for you.
Hmm.
At 15, it's so foundational. You're in a place of going, I know there's more. And what's interesting about that is that that feeling doesn't change, right? For
Right.
and that is a key point that I want to point out, that it doesn't matter at what level you are. We all have this sense of, I am bigger than the life I'm leading. And so that's I call that happily dissatisfied. Like, pause my life, I'm good, but you know what, my life isn't paused, so there's more.
That's right.
And I love that. I love that you took that you went to the library. Like, that is still available to every single person. That's available.
That's
So
right.
go to the library,
That's right.
look at all the books,
Yes.
and that prompted you then to hit bottom, and
Mhm.
also to recognize there is more. Like, I'm here for something,
Mhm.
and to step into that purpose. And it's interesting. You you find purpose by taking action.
That's right.
And for you, your action your action was almost to end your life.
Yeah.
Uh and I don't recommend that. I'm sure you don't
No,
recommend that
of
as
course
an
not.
action step.
No,
Uh,
no.
but also then you bounced from there and you began writing.
Hmm.
Can we talk about your writing? Because I find that fascinating. Most people who set out to be authors don't realize that their books are going to go almost nowhere. Like, the most people who publish a book, they're lucky to have maybe a dozen sales, maybe. And most people don't realize that there's what, 300,000 books published every month. Uh,
Hmm.
how did you get yours out there where it became so well known that you wanted to do another one and leverage that to become so well known,
Hmm.
and on and on? Can you talk about that journey?
Yeah, absolutely. I always knew I wanted to be a writer. And so one of my very earliest memories is being in kindergarten. And we used to play with these blocks with letters on them. I don't know if kids do that anymore, but that's what we did when we were kids. And I remember one of my earliest memories is just playing with those letter blocks and just creating these big, big words, just with letters. And of course I didn't know what they meant or I didn't know anything, but I just love words, and I always loved that. So I was in my head, of course, most boys dream about being an astronaut or a baseball player or a football player or whatever. I always dreamed of being a writer, so that was
Mm,
my dream. But the problem was I didn't know what to write about, and I made a decision or a determination very early, even before I actually ever wrote my first book, which was I am not going to say what everybody else says, because we all know, everybody listening to this program knows that most of the stuff that's out there is just repeated and regurgitated. It's just the same stuff we've heard a million times, and everybody tells all these stories, and it's like, okay, who cares? And so I just made a decision. I was determined not to do that. I was determined that my programs, my coaching, my books, whatever it was, my trainings were going to be different. They just weren't going to be the same old thing that everybody else was talking about. And what's really, really nice and very fulfilling is that now, so many people from around the world have told me, over these past 25 years that, my teaching, my coaching represents the missing piece that they've been looking for. for 10 years, 20 years, 30 years in many cases. And that's really nice because it took me that long to fill in the gaps.
Sure.
And that's what, I'm basically what I am is a synthesizer. So, going back to, my story of, going to the library, reading all these books. And, I guess somewhere in my brain, I was able to synthesize all this and see what exactly was missing from what they were talking about. And that's really what all of my books are about. I'm always talking about something that no one's talking about, that they're missing. For example, one of the things that I'm known for is teaching what's called power habits, the power habits of unconsciously successful people. And what I mean by that is that one of the things that I realized is that highly successful people are doing things unconsciously that they don't even know they're doing, and therefore they can never teach it to you. And so I created, a book series called the Power Habits series. I created an online course called Power Habits Academy. I have a challenge called the Power Habits Challenge. All this is on our website. And so the point is that, just that one piece alone has helped so many people to make so much money. And the reason for that is because, when you look at these unconscious habits, most of the people who hire me as the coach, whether it's one-on-one or group coaching, they've already gone to all the seminars, they've already gone to all the gurus, and it's like, okay, how come I'm still stuck? Like one woman, I remember she's a self-described recovered seminar junkie. That's her words. She was going to all these seminars, running around, and she was making good money. She was making six figures, but she just couldn't break through that ceiling. No matter what she tried, she just kept, hitting her head on that income ceiling, as I call it. And so, she joined one of our coaching programs called the 12-week breakthrough. And in 2 weeks, she tripled her investment. In 2 weeks, we hadn't even gotten to the money part yet. And she just, tripled. And that was because of, teaching her these unconscious habits that no one else, is talking about. And really, when you look at the fact that they're unconscious, that is one of the points, is that's one of the reasons it took me so long, to figure all this out, and all this studying and years of just an insane amount of hours, and years really of putting this together, because, they didn't say it. So if they're not going to tell you, then how are you supposed to figure it out? So one of the things that I tell people all the time is, you don't have to take the 20 years it took me. That's what I'm here for. I save you time, and time is money.
That's excellent.
You know you are bigger than the life you are leading. It really is time to attend to that thing you've wanted to do or have, but you've been putting off. It's time to step into that dream you've parked for someday. It's time to claim true well-being, both personally and professionally, without giving up the success that got you here. It's time to check out Dr. Pernell's signature small group retreat, the Exponential Success Summit. Explore exponentialsuccesssummit.com. Seats are extremely limited, as this is a very special small group event. www.exponentialsuccesssummit.com.
The whole idea about blind spots is that they're blind, we can't see them. The whole idea about unconscious habits is that they're unconscious or subconscious, that we don't have access to them unless somehow we make the unconscious conscious. Can you talk a little bit about maybe one or two of those habits? And then I would love to know about stepping into one of your other programs in your books about seven-figure experts, having that expertise. So I think there's a segue there.
Yeah, absolutely. So, when we look at so like, for example, this is one of my books called Power Habits. And, this is the system that I created. And I'm holding up my book here for those of you listening. So, this is right in the book here is the Power Habit system. So it's very much along the lines of the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. I'm sure we're all familiar with that, by Dr. Stephen Covey. He was actually my inspiration for getting into this business. And I actually had the opportunity to interview Dr. Covey before he sadly passed away. But what he teaches, and, what other people like Napoleon Hill, they're talking about these conscious habits, right? And of course, there's nothing wrong with that. That's all perfectly good. But, what many people have said about my work is that my work starts where Napoleon Hill's left off, and so because he was talking about all these conscious habits. So like one unconscious habits, that highly successful people do is asking empowering questions. right? And which I call the affirmations method. That's something you brought up earlier in my
Yeah.
introduction. And so, I invented this process called the affirmations method, not affirmations, right? So everybody knows an affirmation is a statement of something you want to be true. Like, I'm happy, I'm rich, I'm successful. And your brain goes, no, you're not. Right. And so what I invented was affirmations, which is empowering questions. So, like, why am I so happy? Why am I enough? Why am I always in the right place at the right time? And using the embedded presupposition factor of your brain automatically searches for an answer to the question. So rather than trying to bash your brain into submission, that's what the affirmations method is. That's what the old way is, right? They're basically saying bash your brain into submission. And hey, for some people that worked, for most of us, it didn't. So that's why I invented affirmations, the affirmations method. And you can go to affirmations.com. That's AFFORMATIONS, affirmations.com, and learn more about that. That's just one example of, an unconscious habit that highly successful people are doing that they don't even know they're doing. And therefore they can never teach it to you.
It's amazing. That habit, it can start consciously.
Mm-hmm.
And the more you practice, as with any habit, the more you practice
Right.
it,
That's
the
right.
easier it gets. That's
Right.
it's a huge lever in creating success.
Yep.
And I think that's kind of the gift to our listening audience right now is start asking yourself those questions.
Yep.
And a lot of people will go, oh, why am I so stupid? And it's like, well, that's what you would call head trash.
That's
Um,
right.
the
That's right.
the flip side of that is, how did I get so lucky? What
That's
can
right.
I learn from this situation? How does this thing that happened to me, uh, how does that lever me into the next place?
Right.
It's an amazing place to be. I'll just share with you. I had a client recently not renew with me.
Uh-huh.
My first thought was, what's wrong with him? Like, why wouldn't he? And then I realized I'm shifting a good amount of the way that I do my business. And my next thought was, oh, what doors does this open for me?
Mm.
Like, amazing. And so when you start to recognize that you have control over the questions that you ask yourself,
Mm-hmm.
and you move them to being empowering questions, and those then become subconscious part of your operating system. That is magical. I'm so glad
Yes.
you have that as one of the pieces of Power Habits. I
Yes.
I want to recommend that to our audience. Power Habits. Talk about and
Yep.
affirmations.com. I'll have all of that in my show notes so that people can
Mm-hmm.
get links. What about Seven Figure Expert? Talk about the book, talk about, how do you get to the seven figures, all those things.
Absolutely. Yeah. So this is, one of my 24 books called The Seven Figure Expert. And the subtitle is Your Ultimate Guide to a Life of More Impact, Influence, and Financial Freedom. And by the way, everyone listening and watching the program, they can get this book for free at sevenfigureexpertbook.com. Easy to remember, sevenfigureexpertbook.com. The book is free because you're
Let me
here.
let me ask this: is seven the number seven, or
Either one. It can be
no?
the number seven or the word seven. I have both domains. So either way.
Look
But
at
yeah,
you being clever like that.
sevenfigureexpertbook.com.
That's awesome.
Yep.
Sevenfigureexpert.com.
No, sevenfigureexpertbook.com.
Book.com.
Sevenfigureexpertbook.com. Yeah, you got to put the book in there. And so, yeah, the book is free. I've covered the cost of the book. We just asked you to cover the shipping. So I wrote this book because, many of the people that I've been coaching over the last, many years, whether it's one-on-one or group coaching, have asked me, well, no, I'm an expert. I'm a coach, consultant, course creator, author, speaker, thought leader, and how do I make more money? How do I do that? And so I realized that I've been doing this for many, many years. And I had developed a system, a formula, a framework to actually do that. And so we now call it the seven figure expert formula, hence the name. And so really it comes down to two main components, and those are inner game and outer game. And when you look at your inner game, it's the things that I've been talking about, right? You're, as I call it, taking out your head trash, right? The head trash is the voice in your head that says, I can't do it. I'm not good enough. Who's going to listen to me? Or this will never work. Or I've tried so many things. And, what makes this any different? Just all this trash in our heads, right? So taking out that head trash is one of the main reasons that I've helped our clients, make over $3 billion. I mean, really 90% of that money has come from inner game, which people don't believe that because they're like, oh, well, it's all about marketing, marketing, marketing. Well, yeah, marketing is important. Of course it is. But if you're holding yourself back in the first place, you're not going to do the marketing anyway. So, we gotta take out your head trash first before we can actually even get to the marketing. A lot of people don't do that. And so they're doing it backwards. They're trying to build their house starting on the second floor. It doesn't work that way. You gotta build the foundation first, right? So that's what your inner game represents.
Well,
And then the outer
recognizing
game is all the marketing stuff. Go ahead.
let me pause you because
Sure.
I really want to underscore this point. The inner game is the foundation,
Yep.
right? And that so many people want to rush through that.
That's right.
It's like, yeah.
Everybody does.
Understand that I have to think better.
Right.
But how do I make more money? It's
Right.
like, go back and
That's right.
make it safe, make the foundation sturdy.
That's
That
right.
is how you make more money. That is how you have more impact.
Yeah.
So that's the inner game. Talk a little bit then,
Yep.
a little bit about the outer game.
Well, let me illustrate that point, if I may. I was speaking, just by sharing a story. I was speaking at an event in Los Angeles a few years ago to a group of about 1,000 entrepreneurs, and these were, multiple 6, 7, and 8-figure, entrepreneurs, CEOs. People making, what most people say is a lot of money, right? And so I was speaking about this, everything I talk about power habits, affirmations, your head trash, and things like that. And I just finished presenting, finished speaking, and I was walking off the stage. A man came up to me out of the audience and he said, Noah, you are the coach I've been looking for. And he said, I want to hire you as my coach. And now I didn't know this man from Adam. Ironically, his name was Adam. True story. And so I said, okay, what's going on? He said, well, and he told me that, he owns this company and they had been stuck at the same level for the previous 4 years. Now and he said, I've tried everything. He said, I've hired all the gurus. I've tried all this marketing stuff and I spent all this money, but we just can't, break through. And he said, as soon as I heard you speak about, head trash and power habits and affirmation, everything you just said, he said, I knew that you were the coach that I've been looking for. So, he hired me on the spot. And that's why I love working with high achievers, right? Because they make decisions quickly and firmly. So I coached him one-on-one for about 2 years. In that 2-year period, we got his company from where it had been stuck for the previous 4 years to over 20 million in sales, from 7 figures to over 20 million, a 600% increase in less than 2 years.
Love
and
that.
99% of what I helped him with was inner game. Okay, so I want to underscore that for the folks listening.
It's
And
so
if
important.
you think it's not important, it's everything.
It is everything. I had a similar story where a gentleman's revenue for his company was stalled, and within 2 years we got it so that entire revenue was his take home because his
Nice.
company had taken off so much.
Nice.
Inner game is everything.
Yep.
Everything.
Yep.
And then the outer game.
And I've got a lot of stories that illustrate
I love that.
So,
I love that. No, it's amazing. So then the outer game for you, how do you define that?
Right. So the outer game is all the marketing stuff you have to do, because guess what? It's not the best person who wins. It's the best person at communicating their value.
Yeah.
And so, there's a lot of, every time I'm coaching, anybody, I can always say, look, there's people dumber than you making a heck of a lot more money than you are. And that's because, number one, they're probably not holding themselves back. And number two, they're doing their outer game right. So they're doing both.
Yeah.
Right. So the point is, it comes down to, and this is one of the things I talk about in the book, in terms of my 7-figure expert formula. So you have to have the offers, funnels, and traffic that, get you noticed. Right. So if you don't have the right offers in place, nobody's going to give you any money, or they won't be making enough money. If you don't have the right funnels, then how are people going to pay you? And if you don't have traffic, then you're going to be invisible. So that really comes the outer game. One of the things that my clients say about what I do is I simplify, and the reason I'm able to do that is because I spent over $750,000 paying all these gurus, only to find out they can't teach their way out of a paper bag. I mean, they truly suck at teaching. They're great self-promoters. The gurus are. They're great at self-marketing. But there's a big difference between someone who's good at self-marketing and someone who's a good teacher coach. And usually they're very, very different. So, I spent all this, time, money, and effort going to all those guys only to find out they can't teach their way out of a paper bag. So, I get a little nugget here, a little nugget there. Well, meanwhile, I'm spending all this time and money. So, that's, what I'm able to help my clients with is, okay, look, I took all this time, I spent all this money. So you don't have to. You don't have to do that. I've simplified everything that all these guys say that they don't even say it anyway because they they don't even teach it right. And so I said, and plus, like giving them all that money, and I listened to so much bad advice, I ended up, $40,000 in credit card debt. Back in 2007. This was when I
Mm,
was 40 years old. So, there's so much bad advice out there, and of course, it's really worse now than it even was back then. So, it's really, really hard to know who to trust and who to listen to, and because there's so much bad advice and so much misinformation out there that you
true.
really have to do your homework.
Well, you've done an amazing job at shortcutting, at synthesizing. That is a skill that is rare because you do get people out there that are like, look at me.
Right.
Um,
That's right.
it's interesting. Where do you see things going for business in the next year? I mean, we've come out of a pandemic. We're coming
Hmm.
through some tumultuous times around the world.
Yep.
Uh, can you talk? It's not one of the things that's on your list of things to talk about. I'm just curious. Where do you see? How do people protect themselves and or even grow more greatly during times of tumult?
Yep. Well, the biggest I guess revolution is AI. I mean, everybody's talking about AI, and rightly so. When I got onto the AI wave, one of the things that I do is I wait and see. I am not an early adopter. I'm one of the later adopters because I want to see where everybody else crashes and burns first. Because there's an old saying that says a smart person learns from their own mistakes, a wise person learns from other people's mistakes. So that's what I try to do is say, okay, where's everybody, messing this up and crashing and burning? So I wasn't one of the first to use AI, but certainly now AI is an essential part of my business that I do every single day.
How do
And
you use it?
so
How are you
I,
using it?
I'm I absolutely love it, and there's many, many people, of course, that are very scared of it. Because there is no question that AI is going to, some of the things that I read, according to some reports, it's going to replace, 300 million jobs over the next 5 to 10 years, or, and that, of course, is very scary. I mean, whenever you're talking about people's rice bowls, their livelihood, people are going to get scared. People are going to have fear. So that's one of the things that I do now is I'm able to help my clients to say, okay, AI is here. It's not going away. You can bury your head in the sand and pretend it's not there. Or you can say, listen, how can I utilize this for my benefit? That's the only way that you're going to survive now. So, that's just one example. You talked about the tumultuous times, and yeah, we are, and that won't go away. And frankly, the speed of change is only increasing, right? So, again, according to some reports, there are anywhere between 100 and 200 new AI companies that are launched every day. Every day, 100 to 200 new ones. That's a staggering number.
That
So it's
is
not like
exciting.
anybody can really keep up with that. That's way too much. So to me, you've got to be able to, number one, understand, going back to what I said earlier, really dial in your offers, your funnels, and your traffic. And you also need to learn how to use AI to assist you in that process and not be scared of it.
Perfect. Yeah, that's perfect. A lot of times I'll take lessons that are leadership lessons and use them at home. And what you've talked about is absolutely there's that bridge because it's so personal, right? That
That's right.
that it starts as a mental game. It starts with how do you wake up in the morning? Like a lot of people wake up and go, "Oh, it's only like it's only Tuesday, it's only Thursday, whatever it is. Like how long before the weekend?"
Right.
Those who live in high performance wake up and go, what do I get to do today? Right.
Right.
And so that's for both leaders as well as people who are mm, entrepreneurs or
Mhm.
stay at home home engineers, whatever it is. It's like it goes for everybody,
Mhm.
the inner game. What kind of key uh, sage pieces might you offer somebody for here's how to get through your day?
Well, I know what it's like to hate, your day, to hate your life. I mean, you
Yeah.
shared that earlier. And so, one of the reasons, quite frankly, that I decided to commit suicide, when I was 25 years old was because, and now naturally this was before the internet. Okay. So I really didn't see any opportunity. I didn't see any way. I was working at, these dead end jobs that I hated. And I literally said, so this is going to be the next 40 years of my life. I mean, I'd rather be dead. I honestly felt that way. So I understand what that feeling feels like. And, again, fortunately, and thank God I didn't do it. And my life was spared at the last moment.
Right.
But, again, I know what that feeling feels like, to feel that sense of just desperation and frustration. And I don't see any way out. So, what I want the folks listening to realize is, well, there is a way out, and, going back to my point about AI, I feel that it is a great tool. But you have to use it as a tool. The same thing as the internet. The internet is just a tool of communication. That's all it is. But people look at it like, this is this big scary thing. And, I help a lot of people get over their technophobia, and build their very first sales funnels or their first online program, get their first books done and all of that. And I'm able to do that because I synthesize and I've, been doing this for so long. And so, if you hate your life, if you hate your day, if you hate your job, I've been there. And you still just, frankly, you just follow the formula. Anybody can do it. I mean, if a no name from Maine like me can do it, anybody can do it.
It's so great. It's so great. You have multiple lines of revenue. You have multiple businesses.
Mhm.
Um, where does somebody start with you? How can talk a little bit about how do people reach you? What should they know? All those happy things.
Yeah. Well, if you want to get the Seven Figure Expert book, I'll just mention that again, sevenfigureexpertbook.com. Great place to start. And you can learn about my seven figure expert formula. If you want to just talk to me and, you want to work with me or have me coach you, just go to breakthroughwithnoah.com, breakthroughwithnoah.com, easy to remember. And there's an 11-minute training video. You can watch that video and then book a breakthrough consultation with me or one of my coaches. And, we'll just show you how we can apply my formula, my frameworks to your situation, help you reach your goals, up to 10 times faster and easier with a lot less stress. So, and then our main website is just simply my name, noahstjohn.com. So, if you Google me, you'll probably find me, Noah St. John, and affirmations, of course, like I talked about earlier. So, yeah, I mean, that's really, we're here. What I want people to realize is that there's help available. There are resources available. And again, I will just reiterate that you definitely want to do your homework. You want to do your research, make sure the person, has a track record, has success stories that aren't just themselves. That's one of the really key things that I tell people all the
Huge.
time, because when you look at the gurus, their main, if not only success story is themselves. And that's like, well, that's great for you, but have you helped anybody else? So I'd rather brag about my clients than myself, like how I help, Charles to make $2 million in 10 months, coming where he was stuck, and Susan go from $60,000 in debt to a six-figure income in 12 weeks, and Stephen 800% increase in his business in 12 weeks, and on and on and on. I'd rather brag about my clients because that's how you have a system, a formula, and that's how it can work for you too.
That's so great. Repeatable processes that are
Exactly.
individualized, which
Exactly.
is a huge key.
That's
Noah
right.
St. John, thank you so much for joining me. This has been it's kind of a fast and furious kind of so much. I really appreciate it. Really
My
appreciate
pleasure.
it. Thank you.
My pleasure.
Breakthroughwithnoah.com, noahstjohn.com. All of that will be in the show notes. So please make sure you find them. All right. This is One Sharp Sword Cutting Through to What Matters Most. My guest today, Noah St. John. I'm Dr. P, Dr. Wayne Pernell, the Exponential Success Coach and President of Dynamic Leader. Thanks for being here. We will see you here next time. Please like, share, comment on this episode. Let other people know. We'll see you here next time. Thanks so much.